Welcome, chess prodigies. We're coming to you again with another session of Chess Openings Explained. This time we're focusing in on the Nimzo Indian. So, of course, we're staying on the black side of the board. One of our Achilles' heels on this team, and on most teams, because white has the initiative. So, without any further ado, let's introduce you to the Nimzo Indian. And first, before we even get started, let me ask you this. Do you even know when's a good time to play the Nimzo Indian? Do we play against e4? No. It plays against d4. It works best that way. It could play against c4, but it'd be a little strange. It could, because it could work against the English if you're going to attack that knight that's sitting here. It just wouldn't be as effective because the main purpose is to double up the pawns if possible. You want to create a double pawn here. And when you play against the English, different things come up where you're not really pinning anything because the d-pawn's blocking the king. So let's take a step in. Nimzo Indian starts out with d4, e6. And once again, we're going to expand this out just a little bit. That way you can see the meter. Keep an eye on the meter. This is one of the better openings for black. One of the better options for black. And here we go with c4. Once you see this move, normal development move will be knight f6. Trying to keep a defender on the d5 square as well as an attacker on the e4 square. Now, once this knight, bam, comes here to c3, bishop travels down to, you guessed it, b4. Now, this is you'll see this played on the GM level. You'll see it on various club levels. Honestly, it's probably one of the most underrated, and if I could say that it's right hand, left hand, ambidextrous, you could do all kinds of things with this opening. It can be blended and it can morph into other things real quickly, depending on the way white plays this. Most of the time, you're going to see the Rubinstein, which is going to be simply e3. It's the most common of the classical variations, and whenever you see this, personally, myself, I like to move c5. And what that does is it puts an extra aggressive attacker right here on the d4 square. And it just kind of gives you a window, gives you many options. You're still going to try to thrust this out. And you may see at this point where white just simply sticks with a development move, and boom, you got the bishop. D4, D5. And we'll just say, for argument's sake, there's a capture. Now, you could recapture, creating a triple pawn. And if you do that, that would be, one of those moments where white's going to exchange off here and just take its losses here for a while. But, even if you came down and captured with the bishop here, that would be totally fine. It's not going to hurt the game at all. And let's go ahead and take a step back real quick. If we didn't do that, say you could triple pawn and a recapture and then come out here, picking this pawn up later. It's whatever you want to do. That's just another variation. We could also back this thing up to where you'll see probably more so c2. This is very common nowadays, because white really doesn't want their pawns doubled, which is the whole purpose here. At this point, you can go ahead and capture. And they're going to recapture with the queen. And at this point, you can either capture with the pawn, or you can wait and just swing the knight and just push here. Or if you get a capture here, boom, like we said before, you can swing out with the knight, pick this up later. And then there's also Kasparov's variation, which Kasparov's is not very common. He simply moves the knight to the middle. Now let me tell you, if you see this opening where they just move the knight, you need to start counterplay really quickly. Okay? And what I mean is that you go ahead and trade that off, and get this out of here, get to pushing, create the scenario where I know that the meter dropped, but we're not worried about that, because I'm telling you, If you don't play this opening right at this point, you're going to fall behind. You're going to fall so far behind that the aggression on White's side, because White's going to look to develop the center so quickly. Let's say you didn't do that. Let's take it back a step. Say you didn't do this move to d5, right? Let's say you went on ahead and moved your knight. You could easily see this move getting ready to come be pushed. Like, say we went to here. Okay? e3. Looks like status quo even. Okay? Then you get your castling. And then you get this annoyance right here. Aiming down at your rook. That's how they activate this bishop. Already forcing you to make moves. See? Oh. Now you gotta make a move. Gotta move your rook. Then at this point, normal development move. Bishop comes to center. White has to make a choice. You can see this move happen either way. You can see castling. Not even worried about it. If you capture, they recapture. But look at the triangle. They're sitting on the triangle, two long bishops, knight to the center. It's because you delayed your opening. You delayed attacking. You don't want to do that. And already the meter's telling you this is bad. This is really bad. So, once again, if you see the setup, you want to kind of get to this point quickly. And we'll back it up a little bit more. And come on out. Boom. This is the mainline setup, classical variation. The queen doesn't come. You go back to e3, which is the most common. We see e3. We know, all right, I got this double pawn anytime I want. I don't have to worry about it right now. You can go ahead and challenge for the center if you want. Challenge the pawn. He's not going to take. He wants you to capture because that's where he wants his bishop at. Just letting you know. So, you can start that way and just wait. And then you could end up seeing the pawn. He really wants to see if you're wanting to make this move or not. And I'm telling you, backing up is not a good thing here. I repeat this to you, it is not a good thing. Because once you back up, let's walk through the steps, you get the push, you come to here, bam, what are you going to do? You're out of options. Passiveness is what kills black. You cannot win if you're passive with black unless you're an extremely good defender. They haven't seen anybody like that since the likes of Petrosian. Tigran, for all y'all don't know his first name. Anyway, we got one of those on our team. His name's Emmanuel Simmons. Just giving you some praise, buddy. You deserve it. But here we go. We got the mainline classical variation where we're set up. It's the Rubinstein. Rubinstein is the most common setup where you're going to see. Go ahead and push. This way you're set up here. And then whenever White goes with a normal development move, which is simply fine, you push c5. c5 is very good because even if they decide to capture, you have the ability to go ahead and make it a triple pawn. Or even if you came to here, which does not hurt you at all. Regardless of what you're talking about, meter, this is still going to be a good, very playable game for White and for Black. Boom. And you can come out to here if you want to. Come on out to knight to c6. And if you get the capture, you're goading it. Doesn't matter. You got the queen on it, the knight on it, the pawn on it. You have this d5 square under control. This is a very well set up game. You can see this happen. Just throwing the option out there. And you can't just assume that this is going to be always okay, because you got to remember the knight could swing. You got two pieces ironed down. We've talked about this before. It's all about setting up, being prepared for the attacker. Almost always, Black's king is going to come under attack first. Meter even sees this game is in favor of Black. And we could be overlooking something simple just because I'm trying to walk you through the opening, not necessarily play the best game. But this scenario, queen's protected. Bishop's not active yet. Bishop's not active yet. But we can easily activate the bishop. We can trade this off at this point if we want to, allowing this to be split if we want to. And there's nothing wrong with getting your queen into the game. You can step her right here. You can either put her on C7 or B6. It's fine. It's natural position. Black queen really works well in the opening setups of the game on the dark squares. It's more natural. Doesn't get in the way of the light square bishop, which already has trouble getting out. You can push pawn, then push 2, Come in here, Finchetto your bishop. I'm going to show you one more setup out of the Nimzo Indian. It's one of my favorites. It's a rare line where you'll see the bishop come. You might see the Rubinstein. Now, immediately, I would play this move. I know it's not very common because I'm looking to pressure. Once they come here, I'm looking to put pressure all the way down on this square, forcing the issue. But really, it's all about getting to e4. It's creating the ability to get to e4 and make my move and get in there and do what I want to do. This is kind of like goes from Nimzo Indian to a Queen's Indian setup. So, I mean, this is just another opening, another variation of it, excuse me, in which you can play with and just see how it turns out. I know the top game that was ever played out of this was Nakamura versus Carlsen. And this is the one where Nakamura won 2 years, I think it was, no, 3 years ago. Nakamura won this game. And this setup was the exact setup he used. So, needless to say, Carlsen doesn't really play a whole lot of d4. He plays the E openings, but he will play whatever he wants to play that day because he's that good. Anyhow, this has been a variation after variation, a breakdown of the Nimzo Indian, things we're trying to do. Now, as well as the Queen's Gambit, as we always know, they're trying to create an imbalance on the Queen side of the board, as well as eye down on the King side, trying to find a way to push in here and take over d5, create space, hoping you'll take the pawn. It's not really a gambit, but it goes by that name, so we're going to let it have its name. End of the day, this is how you run this opening more than one way. There's several options we've been given, several things you can look at. You tell me what works for you. You tell me what area of this opening you want to explore, what you want to do. I mean, there's so many things you can do in the Nimzo Indian, so many things you can do inside our system. I will break it down and show you something else to come out of our system. Same setup, like boom, here we are. You get the Rubinstein, right? Bam, you get this move. This is d5. Okay, well, if you really like to stick with what we do and only want to do that, there's the triangle. This is looking almost exactly like a variation of our Slav defense, our semi-Slav. So you might want, what happens? Castle, push. At this point, you can trade it off if you want to. But because you're playing our system and nothing else, in this case, you could back it up. You have an escape route, which you wouldn't have had before. You want to get them to overextend? You can. Boom. You got the stacked bishops coming back down this way, pointing over for the knight to come over. We're going to force this pawn forward, push this pawn out, get the rook involved, queen involved. These systems are interchangeable. They're interlocked. Nimzo is just a trigger point in one variation, and it works really, really, really well against the Queen's Gambit. It's one of the most successful, if not the most successful, opening in against the Queen's Gambit. So now you all have had a good look at what we do as far as this opening and how it ties into what we do in all of our openings. I hope you've learned something. Like the video, subscribe, let me know how you feel, comment below. Give me something back, guys. I want to know what you're thinking. I'm thanking you for taking a look at it. I just want to see if everybody's paying attention and giving me their best. All right. Without any further ado, I'll leave you to the rest of your afternoon. Have a great day.